Welcome into the No Pulp podcast. I'm joined here today by Jackson Holzer and Sam Corcoran. And guys, it is finally time to quote John Rothstein, this is March.
It is March, man.
You said it.
Best month in college basketball. I cannot be more excited to talk about it with you guys.
This is going to be awesome. I can't wait.
It's exciting, guys. I'm looking forward to it. So let's not waste any time here and let's dive right into it. We'll start on the women's side here in college basketball because we already got some big-time conference tournaments starting up.
Yes, we do.
We will start here in the ACC. The championship will be this Sunday at noon over in Greensboro. We're already at the quarterfinals now today. So, guys, how are you feeling about this tournament so far, and what are you looking for in the next couple days?
I mean, personally for me, I think this tournament is a very contested tournament with between two or three teams. NC State and Louisville always on top. Usually it's been the same way for the past few years in college basketball for the ACC. Notre Dame, UNC, and Virginia Tech are a few teams to keep an eye on. I personally like Virginia Tech. They're the 5 seed right now. They've had some absolutely dominant wins, including the one to Syracuse. Won by 100 in the Dome. That's kind of crazy. Clemson as well is a pretty good win. Not the one they played yesterday, but earlier on in the year. BC, a great team as well. They haven't done too well against ranked opponents, but UNC they played today. It's a team I'm somewhat stingy about. They got crushed by NC State. They didn't beat a ranked ACC team this year on the road, which definitely concerns me a lot. Overall, I think I got to give it to Louisville, though. I know NC State is the top seed, but they've lost a ton of games by close margins. Louisville's a team that I definitely think should beat them, even though they lost to them earlier. Keep an eye on the former Syracuse guard, Emily Engstler. She's had some fantastic games recently. I think she could put up a great performance in this tournament.
Well, Sam, I witnessed Louisville in the Dome when they came to Syracuse, and my God, was Louisville just fantastic. I mean, in both ends of the floor, just dominant, absolutely dominant. But actually, that's my upset special. I think Miami could beat them.
Miami?
I think Miami. Why not? Let's
bold.
get the trade started right now. This is March. Josh, you said it. This is March. Let's go. Miami over Louisville. Let's do it. Right now, Miami is a bubble team on the for the tournament right now. So they kind of need this. Don't you agree with that?
They do need it. Yeah.
They need to win this game. So Louisville, yes, it'd be cool to win the ACC. And sure, could it be the difference between being like a number 1 or a number 2 heading into the tournament? Sure. But in the end of the day, in the grand scheme of things, does it really matter being a 1 versus 2 seed?
Not really.
Probably not. So Miami needs this game more. And I know the game was in Coral Gables, so Miami was at home. But Miami hung tough. Miami almost beat Louisville. They had the lead with under a minute to go, and it was some heroics by Olivia Corcoran, who got the game-winning bucket with about 30, or go-ahead bucket with about 30 seconds to go, and then Kiana Smith, who made 2 clutch free throws back-to-back. She shoots less than 70% from the line for the season, and she made 2 clutch free throws. I think that's actually your upset special right there. And overall, I got to go with NC State. I think they're going to win the conference.
I think you're crazy. I know I've said it to you a million times. But
of course, we know that.
I hate
we
to
know
go
you
chalk.
think I'm crazy.
I hate to go chalk. I know it's boring, but I mean, let's be honest here. We've known it all year. We're on a collision course here for NC State Louisville in the championship game. I think Miami's going to have some trouble with Louisville today. I mean, we saw them have some trouble with Duke early yesterday. They were down by 9 points at the end of the first quarter. They worked their way back, obviously, and that's why they're moving on. But I mean, these are 2 of the top 5 teams in the country in NC State and Louisville. They both have all the talent in the world. I mean, you look at Louisville, we mentioned Emily Engstler, but Haley Van Lith as well has been great for them, as well as Kiana Smith, 2 great guards for them. And then you look over at NC State. I mean, they just have all the talent in the world. 5 players on that team are able to score 8+ points per game. And that's a great balance for them to have so many different options to be able to score the basketball. That's what's so important when you get into these conference tournaments and when you get into March Madness. Because if someone's cold, you just have someone else you can go right over to, and there's plenty of options. And that's what I like with these 2 teams, and that's why I think they're on a collision course to meet in the championship game for the ACC. I'd probably lean towards NC State, but it really could go either way.
All right, so at least we're in agreement there.
Yeah.
With NC State winning?
I think so.
I mean, you have Louisville, right?
I have Louisville winning. I mean, I think the reason I have Louisville winning is NC State recently they've had some close games. I mean, Sunday, they only beat Virginia Tech by 2. I know I'm high on Virginia Tech, but Louisville's margins have been a lot stronger. When they come out and they beat their opponents, they dominate their opponents. So I think Louisville can definitely win this tournament, in my opinion, and that's my pick.
Well,
all right, we love it. So that's our picks for the ACC tournament. We'll have that championship game likely between NC State and Louisville this Sunday at noon. Moving on to another championship game that will be played this Sunday is the SEC, guys. They'll have that game Sunday at 1 in Nashville. And what do you guys think about that bracket so far? Who are the teams that are standing out to you there?
South Carolina is great. We all knew they were great, and they have been great. And they will continue to probably be great as well. I know I've said great like 3 times. That was intentional. They're awesome.
Yeah, they've absolutely dominated their opponents. Their only one loss was an overtime loss all year. It was a conference loss at Missouri. I know Missouri's not the best
One
team.
loss.
Yeah, but one loss all season is absolutely ridiculous.
That's insane.
I think one team you got to keep an eye on. If you look at that 4-5 game, Ole Miss, Florida, I think Ole Miss could absolutely make a good run they're going to give South Carolina a good run for their money. They play Florida today. They beat them in Gainesville by 20, almost 20, I should say. They're on a 4-game win streak, and they had put up a good fight. They had a 4-game win streak, and then the day before the tournament, they put up a very good fight against South Carolina. So I think they could give them a good run for their money. In the end, I think South Carolina should breeze through this tournament. Arkansas, I think Arkansas will be no match for them, and South Carolina we should see them win on Sunday.
What are we doing here, man? I mean,
Yeah, South Carolina, we know is great.
Is going to
All
breeze
right,
through
another
this.
team, though, we have to kind of focus on a little bit. There was one we saw on that screen right there with the bracket that there was one team that kind of stuck out. Every other team it looked like was like, oh yeah, the one's playing, the 8, the 2-7, the 3, is not playing the 6. Okay, so who is it? Number 11, Alabama?
Roll Tide.
What's going on? Cinderella Bama?
Roll Tide.
Cinderella Alabama. They need to win the tournament they need to win this tournament in order to get in. And are they going to beat Tennessee today? Probably not. I don't know how many hot takes I really have here to give on this show. But they beat Auburn. I know they beat Auburn, but I know it's kind of whatever because Auburn's not a great team. But
Auburn's
they were losing
last in the SEC.
You know what? They were losing going in the fourth quarter, and then they beat them. All right, and then Georgia is a ranked team. Georgia's top 25 in the country now, and they just spanked them.
Yeah.
And Megan Abrams is just putting on her cape. I mean, she's been outstanding. She's probably been the best player so far in this tournament. I mean, she's played 2 games. Some of these other teams haven't even played yet. So far, Megan Abrams, she's been fantastic for Alabama. And let's see if that continues.
And speaking of Tennessee, they beat Tennessee February 17th by 10.
Wow.
So they definitely can make a run. I totally agree with that.
Was that game at home or on the road?
It was
though?
at home.
That makes it a little more challenging.
You still
at a
beat 'em.
neutral site,
Still
especially
beat them.
in-
A win is a win is a win. That's what I like to
A
say.
win is a
win
win,
is
but
a
it's a
win.
win at home, and then you move on to go into a neutral location now to play a team that I think we can all agree is the better team.
Yes.
I mean, I know that win is definitely good. It probably helps out their confidence heading into this one, but I don't know if I'd say Alabama is able to pull off the upset. I mean, Tennessee is a brand name in the women's college basketball, and I think they'll be able to breeze their way through it. They'll probably end up being the team that meets South Carolina in the championship, in my opinion, but I don't think they stand
You mean
a
the
chance
right to
against them.
lose to South Carolina?
Exactly.
That's basically what it is. Who's going to be the right to lose to South Carolina in the championship, right?
Probably
exactly.
Right?
Probably in the national championship too, I think. I mean,
Really?
we've seen it throughout the year with this team. They're 27-1, and you said it, the one loss to Missouri on the road, but I mean, they've been the number 1 team pretty much all year, and I think it's been pretty clear. Anyway, we will move on from the SEC. We got a couple more conferences that we want to take a look at. How about the Big Ten, guys? I mean, I think this is one that's a little more interesting to look at. I think it's a little more balanced when you get to the top of it here, and there's a lot of different teams that I think have a good shot at winning this tournament. Of course, you got Ohio State as the 1 seed, but that 2 seed in Iowa, we all know about Caitlin Clark averaging 27 points a game, and there's some other good teams in there with Michigan and Maryland as well, wrapping up the top 4 seeds in the Big 10. So guys, how are we feeling about this conference tournament? Another one that'll have a championship game this Sunday at 4 in Indianapolis. We're also in the quarterfinal in this one now. How are we feeling about it?
Well, overall, the Big Ten, I think you kind of alluded to it, but the Big Ten, out of all these conferences, is probably the most wide open. It really is. I mean, we look at the ACC, and we kind of know it's NC State's conference to lose. In the SEC, we know South Carolina, barring something unforeseen, is going to win that conference. The Big Ten, though, the final 8 teams, I really feel like any one of them can win.
Oh, 100%.
And I think that's the biggest takeaway from this. And I'm going to start with the Ohio State-Michigan State game because that's the 1-8, and you think, oh, Ohio State should just be able to breeze through. They're the 1, Michigan State's the 8. The teams are actually very close. I mean, Ohio State beat Michigan State twice this season. Both were kind of close games, though, so Michigan State has hung tough. They've hung tough with them. J.C. Sheldon, Tyler Mike's out for Ohio State. I get it. They're great players. But if Michigan State can slow them down a little bit, there's not much depth with Ohio State after those two players.
Totally.
So if you can just slow them down, then why not an 8 seed getting all the way to the Final Four, I guess, in the conference?
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think Ohio State is definitely a bit stingy. They lost to Michigan State recently, too. So that could definitely be something to look at. They've lost a ton of close games down the stretch. I want to look at the 4-5 matchup between Maryland and Indiana, and let's talk about the Terrapins for a little bit. They've had some very impressive wins on their resume as of late, and in February, they lost one game to Michigan. Phenomenal February for them. I really like Angel Reese. She's been putting up a lot of 20-point performances as of late. Indiana has been struggling. I think they should beat Indiana handily today. And maybe, I mean, they're going to give Ohio State a good battle. And I think they can totally come out on top. So the Maryland Terrapins are one team to watch. At the end of the day, though, I got to give this to Iowa. I really just cannot doubt Caitlin Clark at this point. She's the best player in women's hoops right now. And I think they should win it all. But definitely keep an eye on Maryland as a team that they could, or they, in my opinion, they should play in the final.
Wow. And the one thing I wanted to bring up, I mentioned it earlier, and this is something that I really value a lot when we get into March, is balance. Because if one player is not scoring well, you need to have other options. And a lot of these teams in the Big Ten I don't think are that balanced, but the team that I guess has the most balance would be Michigan. I mean, they're led by Naz Hillman with 21 points, but they do have 4 other players behind her who are averaging more than 8 points a game. There's only one averaging over 10. That's Liga Brown with 14.5 points per game. But they have that balance. They have a lot of different places they can go out there for the maize and blue, and I think they'll be able to take this one home.
They have been a bit stingy lately. They lost to Iowa by 20, losses to Northwestern and Michigan recently. I mean, it'll be a tough game between them and Iowa. I just think that they lost by 20 to Iowa. I really think Iowa can keep it up and beat them again.
I mean, Michigan right now is a top 10 team in the polls. They're really good.
They are a good team.
Really
I
good.
won't doubt them,
In fact, Michigan is the 3 seed here, and they're the, I mean, if I'm looking at this correctly, they're the highest ranked team in the polls.
They are. Yeah, no, that is true. I definitely.
They're the 3 seed in the conference, but yet they are the highest ranked team currently in the polls. So, you know what? I'm going to go chalk here, I guess, even though it's not really chalk, and I'm just going to say Michigan's probably going to win this conference.
Interesting.
I
They're the
think
most
I
balanced
agree with
team
you
here.
there. I'll go with the maize and blue. I think they end up winning the Big Ten this year. And we'll move on. We got one more conference tournament that we're going to have to take a look at over on the West Coast now. Go over to my home. We'll go to the Pac-12, and we'll look at this championship's going to take place Sunday at 6 in Las Vegas, Sin City. Guys, what are we looking at here in the Pac-12?
I mean, can we just agree that Stanford's going to win this tournament?
Yeah.
They are killing it this year, guys. They're undefeated in conference play, 18 straight, only 3 losses all season. I mean, the next best team in the conference has 6 conference losses. Stanford's undefeated in the conference. I really don't need to talk about this conference too much because Stanford is going to dominate. They should be in the Final Four for the women's tournament. Book it. Stanford's going to kill it.
We're in agreement, Sam. We flat out are in agreement. Josh, is there anything more you can add in terms of, like, is there any other team you think that has a chance? Anyone?
No,
or is
probably not.
Is this like the SEC here, where we just know who's probably going to win this conference?
I'd say I'm even more confident in
I'm
Stanford
so much
winning
more
than South
confident in
Carolina, to
Stanford.
be honest with you. The one
Really?
thing, though, that I do want to add that I do think really plays to Stanford's advantage a lot, I mean, it helps every team, but I do think it's going to be an advantage to Stanford, just because they'll be able to have it, is the Pac-12 tournament, unlike the other 3 tournaments we looked at, is currently in the semifinal, despite the fact that all of the championship games are on Sunday. So they'll play today. If they win Saturday, they get a day off. And I think that really helps them get their legs under them. And that just gives the advantage to the better team. Because if both teams are tired, I think that kind of gives the advantage to the underdog. Because it's a little bit more variability, I guess would be the word for it. A lot more can go wrong. And I think with that extra day of rest, they'll have some time to regroup, get it all together, and be focused at the prize, which is a Pac-12 championship.
Yeah, I mean, I get your logic. I don't know about your logic there because I think the team that's played the more games coming in needs that day off more than the team that hasn't. I think that's where I would lean. But it's really a moot point.
Sure,
it
but I think they'll end up playing Oregon and they play the same amount of games anyway.
Yeah, doesn't okay, yeah. So I guess your logic doesn't even really apply here because both have played the same amount of games. But like, it's just like.
Well, no, it
doesn't
still
really
applies because
matter.
I think it's going to give the advantage to the better team because they'll have the rest and
In that
better
case,
team
sure. Yes.
will
In
be
that
able
case,
to-
sure. I was just assuming if they
Right.
played a different number of games, well, then the team that played more games probably needs the day off more. But in this case, yeah, probably. Well, the team that's better has the advantage anyway, so it doesn't.
Yeah.
I think we're all in agreement that Stanford is probably going to take this tournament.
They should, and I just want to bring it up. They should play Oregon in the championship. They put up 2 very good fights against Stanford. They beat they did not beat Stanford. Excuse me. They lost to Stanford by 3 in Oregon. When they went to Stanford, they lost by 12. Which, I mean, it's still a big margin, but at the end of the day, it's Stanford, one of, if not the best team in women's hoops. So they could give them a good challenge. But I think Stanford, I'm so confident in. I would put all my money in them to win this tournament.
One more note I want to make about Stanford here before we move on, guys. I know I've hit this nail on the head plenty of times already, but 4 double-digit scorers. They got that balance, and I think that's going to help
lots of
them down
balance,
the
and
stretch.
that's going to be key when it comes to the NCAA tournament.
Exactly. And moving on here, we are going to head over to the men's side of college basketball, and we are going to play a little game here, kind of inspired by Mardi Gras. We all know that happened recently. So we're going to kind of look at a couple of college basketball teams here and say if they should be celebrating this season, go to Mardi Gras and celebrate a little bit, or if this season was a failure for them. So we will start with one team that I think we're all going to agree they were pretty successful this year, winning the Big East, and that's the Providence Friars, guys.
Yes,
I'm just going to go
100%.
ahead and say it right now. He's not just Big East Coach of the Year. Give Ed Cooley National Coach of the Year. I don't know how it could even be close. I know Tommy Lloyd's done some good things.
We can debate that.
I know Tommy Lloyd's done some good things at Arizona. I know that Mark Adams did a lot of good at Texas A&M. But, guys, Providence was a team that didn't come in with a lot of big expectations this year, a couple of transfers, and they really just made all the puzzle pieces fit together beautifully.
Yes.
They're 24-4. They're Big East champs. They've never done that before. How do you not give him Coach of the Year?
I mean, I definitely think the one reason why I wouldn't give him Coach of the Year just yet is you do have some interest. You have some wins with some very close margins to teams that you should have beat by a lot more. For example, I know DePaul, Xavier, those are 2 teams they should beat more. They did lose to Villanova twice, however. I am very high on Villanova. They're shooting about 83% from the free throw line, which is, and guys, NBA teams don't do that. That's absolutely absurd.
Well, the NBA line is also longer.
I mean, still, but I mean, it's still a very impressive stat. I mean, Big East champs, and Big East is one of the, if not the best conference in college basketball. I definitely think
Big East is not the best conference in college basketball.
It's pretty
one
good.
of. It's one of.
It's
I would
pretty
say.
good.
I mean, I wouldn't say it's the best. I think Big Ten. We'll talk about some Big Ten teams
Oh,
later.
don't get me started with the Big Ten. Please, can we not talk about the Big Ten that much? Frauds. They're all frauds until proven otherwise.
We will get to that
But
later.
anyway,
Exactly.
regarding Providence, of course it's Mardi Gras time. I mean, this team, the way I kind of view this is like, okay, is there like, did they have any tournament expectations coming into the season? Well, the answer is no. I think we're in agreement, no.
Yeah.
Who was picking them to go to the tournament? Maybe Liam? Liam Griffin,
Maybe.
shout out to him.
Probably him.
Maybe him. That's about it. They haven't been to the tournament since 2018. There's no real expectations coming in. And look at that. They're 5-3 in quad 1 play. I know they've lost to Nova twice. That's
Villanova.
It's Villanova.
And you know what? That
That's
one
a really
Villanova
good team.
game at home, they probably should have won that game.
You know what? Coulda, shoulda, woulda. It doesn't matter. Villanova's a good team. So you lose to a good team. That's not the end of the world here.
Exactly. You
And
know what?
you're-
They're still Big East regular season
They're
champs.
Big
They
East
are.
regular season champs, and they're 5-3 in quad 1 play. And they're a lock. Yeah, they're going to be in the tournament. So, like, yes.
Not only in the
Mardi
tournament,
Gras
a
time.
very high seed in the tournament
Yeah.
too.
Exactly. Joe Lenardi has them as the highest 4 seed right now in his bracket, potentially moving up to the 3 line as well if they have a
Perhaps,
good Big
yeah.
East
Probably
tournament.
should.
The other thing that I wanted to bring up with Providence, though, that I feel like a lot of people are talking about, I don't know if you guys are big Ken Palm guys or not, but something that Ken Palm tracks is something called the luck factor. It's essentially just the projected wins in relation to the wins that they have, and Providence is, by his calculations, the luckiest team in the country, and a lot of that is due to them winning close games, and a lot of people are kind of
luckiest
saying
team?
that they're not really prepared for the tournament because they are that lucky team, and they aren't. They're a little bit overvalued. I think that's just the craziest narrative.
What
in the
is
entire
that?
world.
What does that even
That's a
mean?
weird stat.
What do you
I
want them to do?
completely
Blow
agree.
out everybody?
And
They
I
won the
think
games.
it's an advantage. I mean, you play all these close games. You know they're battle tested. You know they're going to be able to win in March when they get into a tough situation. If anything, I think
Thank you.
that's
Yeah. Thank you.
important. I think that's a good thing, especially with the senior leadership that they have there and a great head coach that we already mentioned, Ed Cooley. I think that helps them out when they get into March.
100%.
Yes.
And a win is a win is a win. I already said that earlier. They're 24-4. you know, they're gonna make a good run in March, in my opinion.
What are the 3 words, to quote Jim Valvano? Survive and advance.
Exactly.
Yes. And it's just like the luck factor. Well, okay, great. So, you know, number 2, whoever, is playing the 15 seed in the first round. They've blown out everybody throughout the season, but all of a sudden now it's a tight game. What happens when you don't play a lot of close games? You kind of start to get jittery. You kind of start to panic a little bit. So if you've been in a lot of close games, you kind of know what to expect. You've been through it before. And as you said, you're battle tested for this.
Yeah.
So the luck factor, I don't care if they got lucky. Luck, what are we talking about lucky here? It's basically 5 players in their team are averaging at least 10 points because one of them is at 9.9. Isn't that like the most indicative stat? Isn't that the most indicative stat that you keep bringing up? So this is a good team. This is Mardi Gras time. Congratulations to Providence. Good luck in March.
Completely
Even though
agree.
it is March.
I have some high expectations for Providence moving into this tournament. But moving on here, we're going to head down south to the home state of Jackson here. It's all about the U. Miami has a 20-win season out of nowhere. Guys, are they partying or not?
100%. I know they've been in a slump recently, but the slump includes a 1-point loss to Virginia Tech, who Joe Lunardi just put on his bubble today. 3-point loss to UVA. I mean, could have been better, but you know what? UVA should be a high seed NIT team. And then a 4-point win to another team in the tournament, Wake Forest. So overall, I definitely think Miami should be partying. 20 wins, a 20-win season out of nowhere. Hello, absolutely party on, Miami. And I mean, all those teams are in the top half of the ACC, the teams in the slump. But 20 wins, I mean, it's a very impressive. I'm not too concerned right now. They have to prove a little bit more in March, in my opinion. But right now, they're in the 8-9 matchup. That's pretty solid, set up to get a good run in March Madness. Miami should be very happy with their season.
And Sam, you mentioned it, those 3 big wins that they had against Wake Forest, against Virginia Tech, and against Duke. You know what all 3 of those wins had in common? They all came on the road. Miami knows how to play in these tough environments. They know how to play through the adversity, and that's something that I'm going to really value a lot.
That's something I value too. And yeah, this is definitely, we're all in agreement here so far. I think we're 6 for 6.
Yeah,
right? Mardi Gras time. It's time to party with Miami too. You know, I'm not a Miami fan, but I am from there. I live about an hour from there, so that's nice. Go. Yeah, I'm not going to say go Hurricanes because I'm just not a Hurricane fan. But anyways, they were picked to finish bottom of the ACC. And look at them now. Look at them now. They're going to be they're comfortably in the tournament right now. Winning the ACC would be great. It would be great for them, right?
Yeah, 100%.
It doesn't matter. They're in that luxury position where they do not have to win or do anything in the ACC tournament, and they are locked in the NCAA tournament.
Definitely
so yes,
should be locked in, but you still want to get some
team.
work done in the ACC tournament.
Yes,
you want to move
it's
on.
also a pride thing for them.
Get a higher seed, but they're going to make this tournament one way or another.
I mean, how high do you think Miami can realistically climb here?
They can get up to a 7 and avoid a 1 seed first weekend.
100%.
Okay, so then you have to play a 2. Is that really much of a difference?
Yeah.
Depends, I guess.
Oh, definitely.
I guess it depends.
Would you rather play Gonzaga or Purdue?
Well, I would rather play Purdue, but it depends what number 1 seed you're going to play.
Would you rather play
Arizona or Wisconsin?
Wisconsin's not going to be a 2.
They're projected 2 right now.
Get out of here.
Yeah, they are.
Come on.
Yeah, they have the 2-15 matchup in the West against Montana State.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's another Big Ten team.
Man, that ain't right.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
Hey, man, Big Ten regular season champs.
He bumped Purdue to a 3. That's crazy.
Wow.
I did not see that one coming. Anyway, the thing with Miami that I think is really important.
I mean, hold on, but back to your point. Would you rather play Auburn or Duke? Is there really much of a difference?
Oh, I'd rather play Duke. Absolutely.
Yes, 100%.
No question.
Really?
Yeah, I'm also very high on Auburn, but
I'm
would
high
much
on
rather
Auburn
play
too.
Duke.
I'm just saying, I don't know if there's that much of a difference between Auburn and Duke. That's all I'm saying. So really being the 7 versus the 8.
Maybe.
Depends who you're playing.
That's true, but you also get to play a 10 seed instead of a 9 seed. First game.
Sure.
Anyway,
Yeah.
back to Miami here. The one thing that I'm really confident about with them, when you get to the tournament, it's really all about guard play, and guys, they have it. I mean, you look at Isaiah Wong, you look at Cam McGusty, you look at Charlie Moore. They have 3 really, really talented guards, 2 of them seniors as well. And the best one of those 3 is Isaiah Wong. He's not the senior, but you know they have that leadership along with their best player. They're really going to be able to get something done with these 3 guards as long as they are able to stay healthy and stay on the court throughout the game. I think they will be at least winning 1 game in the tournament.
Yeah, they're a sneaky team for the tournament. But I think we can all agree that if this is Mardi Gras, they're already happy now. My one concern, and this is really my concern with all these teams that we're going to say are Mardi Gras, it's because, well, they've already had a successful season, so now it's like they're happy to be there, and there's not a lot of sense of urgency. I guess that would be my one kind of flaw here.
We'll move on now. We were talking about Miami. They are the 9th seed in Joe Lunardi's bracketology, and they are currently matched up with the next team we're going to talk about, 8-seeded Marquette. Guys, Shaka Smart's first season up in Marquette, 18-10 is their record right now. Guys, was this a successful season for the Golden Eagles?
I mean, are we going to be 9 for 9? Or what are we, 6 for 6? Because I'm going to say Mardi Gras here. I'm going to say Mardi Gras.
I don't agree.
Are you in?
I don't agree.
Okay, Josh, you're going. Josh, let's hear it. Finally, we have a disagreement. This is a revelation.
So first, let me get this off my chest. I have a personal vendetta against this team.
Okay, so you're biased. Okay. Okay, so you're really in agreement. Cool. You just undermine yourself.
They blew a terrible, terrible game against Georgetown, given 13 points. They were up by like 26 with 7 minutes left. Won by 11, killed me. We don't need to talk about it anymore. Shaka Smart's not a good coach, all right? Let's just get this right out.
What do you mean he's not a good coach?
He is not a good basketball coach.
How? How are you going to sit here and tell me that?
What has he done outside of the one Final Four run at VCU?
How are you going to say he turned the program around in 1 year? How are you going to sit here and tell me that
and where's
he's
the
a bad
program
coach?
now?
Well, they're going to make the tournament.
VCU?
Not VCU. Who cares about VCU? Marquette. Well, we're talking
Shaka
about
clearly
Marquette
didn't
here.
care about VCU. That's why you left.
Last year, Marquette was 13-14. They didn't even sniff the tournament, let alone the NIT.
They weren't good last year.
They couldn't even make. Yes, and he turned the team around. How are you going to sit here and tell me he's
around? They still have double-digit losses.
Are they going to make the tournament?
Probably.
Okay. So
are they going to get bounced in the first round? Probably.
That's better than going one game under 500.
Sure it is, but we're not hanging banners for making the round of 64 here, Jackson.
Yes, we are, when they had no expectations. That's what the point of this is.
This is not a successful season for Shaka.
This is a successful season.
Can I just say why? Because
what is Marquette, Duke or something? Like, come on now.
No, but you look at it from Shaka's perspective. He left Texas for this job. He left I don't want to say blue blood program because, I mean, I don't think Texas basketball is anything special. But you got all that money. I mean, this is Texas. I mean, it's one of the biggest college athletics programs in the country. You leave that to go to Marquette, and you can't even avoid double-digit losses? I mean, this is a failure for Shaka.
What do you mean? What are you, a failure? They're 36th in the net right now.
No one cares
They're
about
6
net
and 7.
rankings, Jackson.
Oh my God! You're going to bring up Ken Palm and the luck factor. Get out of here.
God.
They're 6 and 7 in quad one play, and I know they're under 500 in quad one play. They have 6 quad one wins. How is it a failure? They're going to make the tournament. They were 1 game under 500 last year. That is absurd.
I mean,
how many quad one losses?
Sam, go.
I mean, I gotta say, it's not a failure. At the same time, they need to prove a lot more. They've been very inconsistent this year. They're 10-8.
Sure, we can agree on that.
They're 10-8 in conference. They lost to Butler and DePaul. You have to win those games.
Okay,
you have to.
Okay. We can agree they're inconsistent.
Right now, I mean, we just talked about Miami. I think Miami's gonna kill them in the tournament in the 8-9 game.
I agree. Shouldn't be losing to Creighton twice either.
Yeah, that too.
Okay, but 18 and 10, and they're gonna make the tournament. That is a successful season, especially when it's his first season as the Marquette head coach.
But it's not like Marquette's a bad program. We've seen Marquette have success in the past.
Okay, they were great when they had Dwayne Wade on their team. That's great.
Since that.
Okay,
McEwen was a good player for them the past couple of years.
They haven't been Jimmy Butler.
Marcus Howard, are you kidding me?
They have not been past the round of 64 since 2013. I'm looking at it right now. 2013, they made the Elite Eight. Since then, they haven't been out of the first round. They've only made the tournament twice. So since 2013, after that year, they have made the tournament only twice and haven't even won a game.
So I guess Marquette and Shaka have something in common there.
What?
Not winning tournament games.
Oh, my God. It's not about the tournament right now for them. It's Mardi Gras season. Party it up. You know what, Marquette fans? I give you full permission. This is a successful season. Hopefully, I mean, good luck against Miami. I don't know if you guys are going to win that one. We'll see what happens.
I mean, it's not about the tournament right now, but it's going to be all about the tournament come a few weeks. And that's why I think you can party a little bit right now. But at the end of the day, at the end of the day, you got to finish up and go for it.
Exactly. And moving on here, we mentioned them a couple minutes ago. Let's go back to Shaka Smart's old school Texas Longhorns. We said that Shaka Smart left. They replaced Shaka with a guy named Chris Beard, pretty good coach that they got out of Texas Tech. We saw him make a national title game a couple years ago, and he came in with big expectations, a lot of transfers. Correct me if I'm wrong, but they were a top 5 team in the AP poll entering.
No, you're right.
Maybe top 10 or so. Yeah. I don't know if they cracked the top 5, but I mean, they haven't met those expectations this year, guys. I think it's clearly a failure with this team.
It's 100% a failure. If you're top 5 and end, I mean, just in the top 25, that's really not that good of a season. And I mean, Chris Beard, he's a great coach, but his team that he left in Texas Tech, in my opinion, is clearly a better team.
No question.
No question about that. So
Texas Tech is the best team in that state, and it's not close.
100%. So you know what I'm doing? I'm giving a horns down. Texas failed this year.
Listen, guys. I'm going to agree. I'm going to agree with you that this is not a time to party if you're a Texas fan. But to say this season was a complete failure. I mean,
complete failure.
It's Texas, and they were a top 5 team coming into the season. Top 5 team coming in. They're in position right now to be a top 5 seed going into the March Madness, and I get it. They did not meet expectations. They probably fell below expectations. I'm in agreement there, but to say it's a failure, I mean, a failure would have been like not making the tournament.
This is a Texas team that retained their 2 leaders in Andrew Jones and Courtney Ramey. Then they go out and add so many guys in the transfer portal. You get Trey Mitchell.
It's not a failure. That's just not the right word.
You get Devin Askew. You have all these pieces that you should be able.
It's not a failure.
Let me finish. You have all these pieces who you should be able to mesh together beautifully with one of the best head coaches in the country in Chris Beard. And look at what he did. He did nothing.
Okay, it's not. You can't say it's a failure. You can't say it's a failure, though. I'm in agreement. We are all in agreement. It's not
sky high expectations.
Okay,
and they haven't done anything.
Okay, but that's fine. Their expectation. They could have been a 1 seed. They could be undefeated for all I care, and I would still say no Mardi Gras time because you got to do something in March. You were a real team coming in. I don't care what seed they are. Okay, they had real tournament aspirations going into the season. So, yeah, okay, they fell below expectations. So far, they've fallen below it. That's okay, whatever.
Look, Big
12
is
some games in the tournament.
Big 12 is a good conference, but 10-7 is not great.
Right now, they're set up for the 5-12 matchup against Chattanooga.
Okay, they'll beat Chattanooga.
Alert. That Chattanooga is a fantastic.
Not again. Never again. Never again. They're not. No. They lost last year to Steve.
Shout out Abilene Christian.
Whoever they lost. Yeah, Abilene Christian. Whatever. They're not losing that game again. Never again.
All right, we will move on from Texas. That was a pretty heated one there, but I think
we were all in agreement there too. I was just trying to provide a little bit of a context
Texas
here.
is a team that I really could see getting upset.
Oh, they totally could get upset.
You must have a vendetta against Texas too.
No, I just don't think they're good.
I just
don't
think
know if it'll be
Chattanooga's a great
Chattanooga.
team.
I'd love to see them get matched up against
team.
North Texas too, maybe a Vermont. We look at some of those high mid majors that have had
Someone
great
go
years.
figure out when the last time Chattanooga did anything in the tournament. And
Probably never.
Okay,
They've never had a team
great
that's
team.
good. They've never had a team
Great
that's good
team. They're a
over
12 seed.
Chattanooga.
Yay.
Anyway, we will move off of Texas now to another team that I would say has been even more of a disappointment than Texas, and that is the UCLA Bruins.
100%.
They started the season as the number 2 team in the country, came in with all those expectations after the Final Four year, retaining Johnny Juzang, retaining Tiger Campbell, retaining Jaime Jaquez, retaining Cody Riley. All these guys, add Miles Johnson to the mix, and guys, just hasn't been their year.
It is not whatsoever. And I do want to say, I know they started off as the 2 seed, but they should not have started off as the 2 seed. This was a team that should have lost to Michigan State in the first 4 last year.
Thank you.
Oh, my goodness.
They should have lost them.
Here we go.
And they made a run as an 11 seed. They really started picking up in March, and yeah, that was good, but a 2 seed was way too high for the talent they had on that team.
Yeah.
To fall from 2 to 17 is pretty bad, in my opinion. They should not be celebrating at this moment. And honestly, it's a very weak Pac-12. You only have 3 tournament teams. Honestly, you can make a very strong argument that there are 2 better conferences out on the West Coast, Mountain West and WCC. I think you could 100% argue are better than the Pac-12. So this team should have been better. They should have really dominated the Pac-12 from the preseason expectations. But you know what? Now they're that 3 seed in the Pac-12. Not really looking good for them. Absolutely, I'm not celebrating.
I completely agree with you. This team has been fraudulent since day one. They should have lost that game to Michigan State in the first 4. They probably should have lost a couple other games in the tournament as well that they were able to survive and advance in. But
it's about survive and advance. Didn't you say that? It doesn't matter.
That's March Madness. But you know what? They were a team that kind of backdoored their way into the tournament. They were a team that backdoored their way into the tournament. Just barely made the first 4, and you have all these expectations.
They almost beat Gonzaga.
They almost beat
They needed a miracle shot from Jalen Suggs.
That's not the point. They barely got there in the first place.
Okay, but they were 11.
But they were a bad team from November to February last year. And just because they had a good run in March, everyone expected that they would be a good team all year. They didn't do that last year. I mean, that's clear. I don't know what people's expectations were for this team. They were frauds since day one. And I know Jaime Jaquez has been hurt. A lot of different injuries for him, and that's really hurt them.
Oh my God.
He's their glue guy. I know Tiger Campbell runs the offense with Juzang scoring, but Jaquez really is that glue guy for them, and he hasn't been on the court, and that's been hurting them. But you know what? You still got to fight through the adversity.
You know, again, we're in agreement here that it's not party time for UCLA, but they're 22-6 this year. 22-6. Is that really that bad? Are they chopped liver? They're going to be a 4 seed, I guess. I mean, that's what Joe Lunardi has them right now, is a 4 seed in the tournament.
But you also
are they chopped liver? They stink.
You gotta remember this.
They don't stink. They're fine.
You gotta remember this is the Pac-12, one of the out of all the conferences.
And in the conference, they're 14-5.
They're good.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, they should win more games. I mean, you're not.
They needed to win more.
I mean, I think they could.
You can't be losing games to Arizona State.
Yeah,
Actually,
can't be losing games to Arizona State.
I think one of their worst losses, and it was actually against a really good team, was Gonzaga when it was early in the year and they lost by 20. I don't think that was very good.
Gonzaga by 20 is also.
That's not very
Gonzaga
good.
is good. UCLA was also extremely. I mean, they're a ranked team. You shouldn't be losing to Gonzaga by 20.
You shouldn't be
And I'll
losing
go
to
back and say
Arizona
they shouldn't
State.
have won that Villanova
Can
game
we
either.
be fair about the
Yeah.
Arizona State game? No, they lost by 3 in triple overtime. Is that the worst loss in the world? Is that unforgivable? See, I would say that losing to Gonzaga by 20 and completely laying a dud is worse than losing in triple overtime.
You know who beat Arizona State this year?
Who?
Syracuse.
Oh, yeah. Never mind. I stand corrected.
Yeah.
Whoever Syracuse beats is evidently terrible at basketball.
That is.
I submit I rescind everything. If Syracuse beat you, you stink.
Arizona State put up 29 a game. That's ridiculous.
That was bad.
They did what?
That was
They put
bad.
up 29
I remember
points in a
making
game
some
to
good
Washington
jokes about
State
that
at
one.
home.
They
That
scored
was fun.
29 points.
In a game. Yes.
Moving on here, there's
I
one
don't
other
even
thing I
remember
want
that.
to touch on with UCLA and Joe Lenardi's bracketology right now. He has them as a 4 seed. That would be a potential 4-5 matchup against the Alabama Crimson Tide. We're taking Bama here.
No, let's go UCLA.
It's going to be tough. That's a close game. You even could see a team like, I mean, if they lose first round to Townsend or South Dakota State, South Dakota State beats Alabama, you could see a Sweet 16 run.
Did they play Bama in the tournament last year?
UCLA?
I believe they did.
I believe they
Sweet
did.
16,
Yes.
Yeah,
that would be
they
an
did.
interesting rematch.
Interesting
That'd be a
rematch,
lot of
yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
That
I guess
was
who
the
won,
game
who won that? Who
where-
won that, Josh? Who won that game? I just want to know.
UCLA
Okay,
won,
thank
but
you.
that was the game
Okay,
where
failure.
Alex Reese hit the 3 to send it to overtime.
Yeah,
correct?
that was
that
that
was
game.
a phenomenal game. Anyway, we will move on from UCLA here, and now there's another team to talk about, a team that probably won't make the tournament, but didn't really have expectations to make the tournament heading into this year. Guys, Texas A&M, 19 wins. That's a big improvement
Texas
for them.
A&M, good story. They were really bad last year, and I guess now they're mediocre. I mean, you're not projected to make the tournament, so how am I going to sit here and say it's Mardi Gras time? I can't.
I would say they had a successful
I think
season.
it's a successful year.
Okay, successful season, but are you telling their fans, hey,
It's
go out
like
and
if
party?
the Jets go 7-10 this year. Is that
And I'm not,
successful?
no,
season?
it's not successful. It's not successful if the Jets go 7-10. I'll answer that right now. I don't care if they go 7-10. They haven't
With
been in the
those
playoffs. We're not
expectations,
talking
yes,
about
it
the
is.
Jets. We're not talking about the Jets. The only thing I'll say is they haven't been in the playoffs since I was in 3rd grade. Enough about the damn Jets. The Jets are not relevant right now. Let's talk about Texas A&M, okay? 8 wins last year. Okay, whatever. Or they were really bad last year. 19 this year. It's a good step up, but are you going to really sit here and tell me, hey, let me go find the average Texas A&M fan and say, hey, guess what? Your team is not making the tournament, but you guys should be partying anyway.
It's not. I think you could.
It's
party
not
a
like
little
Texas
bit.
A&M is a bad school or anything.
Can I tell you why it was a successful season?
Sure. Go ahead and tell me they're supposed to party.
They play one senior. They had 19 wins this year, and most of this team, assuming they're able to keep them out of the transfer portal, will be coming back. This is something they can build off of for next year.
Oh, I agree.
Coming off of an 8-win season last year.
I agree.
This is progress. They didn't have expectations.
Yes,
100%.
But they
it's progress.
still went over the expectations.
The point of the game, though, is are they supposed to be partying right now? And the answer is no. I'm not going to tell the average Texas A&M fan that it's time to party. Your team is not going to make March Madness unless you win the SEC tournament.
Watch out for them in the NIT, though.
I don't care about the NIT.
And the NIT stands for not in tournament.
That was my line.
That's everyone's line.
It's my line.
It's everyone's line. But
I trademarked it.
I think you can party a little bit, not too much. I think it's a successful season. Should you be throwing a massive party? Absolutely not. You got to make March Madness to do that. The 8-game losing streak in there, they did have that. I mean, it was all the very rough teams. I know LSU was in there. You know, Kentucky got to be in there. But the last 3 games have been fantastic for them. I mean, if I look at their games real quick, they beat Bama in Bama. They beat Ole Miss, crushed Georgia. Overall,
Crushing Georgia doesn't mean that.
I mean, it doesn't
really
mean
an
much, but still. I mean, their last 3 games, it's a good run to end the year. Now you're going to the SEC tournament. No, that's coming up later. They play Mississippi State tomorrow. But I think definitely, I think NIT is probably what you're looking at for them. But it's a lot of progress for the future, especially due to the fact that
You got to think also with Texas
I will
A&M.
say
you
some
go.
of their wins are a little bit fraudulent. They caught Alabama on a bad shooting night, 8 of 24 from 3, and that's
They still
how
won
you're
on the
gonna-
road.
A win is a win is a
but
win, man.
But that's how you're able to beat
They scored
Alabama when
87
they don't-
points themselves.
That's the thing with Bama is when they don't shoot well from 3, It's not
Didn't
that
you
hard
just
to
say
beat
you were
them.
going to pick Bama to beat UCLA?
Yeah, I will. But when they
What?
don't shoot well from 3, they're not that hard to beat.
Okay, that's basically the tournament for you.
And
It's a shooting contest.
Sure, but the other big win they had was Arkansas, and that was early January before Arkansas really turned into this juggernaut that they are now. I don't really put too much stock into their wins. I mean, the win on neutral court against Notre Dame, I mean, that I could argue is Alabama's probably their best win, but I would value that more than Arkansas because Arkansas wasn't the team that they are now in early January.
And you got to figure with Texas A&M, if they were just to flip a couple of those games in that 8-game losing streak, they'd probably be in the tournament.
Right.
Like, let's
and
be
I mean,
real.
They took
here.
Arkansas to overtime
So
on the road.
can you beat Arkansas? Like, you want to be a tournament team, you're going to have to win some of these games.
Right.
So winning winning on the road in Arkansas is obviously a tough game, and there's no shame in losing per se. But you want to be a tournament team. I mean, that's a game you're going to have to win. You can't lose in overtime. Can't do it.
But again, this was a team that didn't have the expectations to make the tournament.
We agree.
And they well exceeded the expectations.
They well exceeded the expectations. We're in agreement. It's just not. You can't party if you don't have if you're not making a tournament.
It's a success, but we're not throwing a party for the success.
Okay, fine.
Yes.
It's a success. We're not throwing a party.
All right, I agree with that one. And moving
Finally,
on now.
look at that. They all agree with me now.
Moving on now, let's talk one of my favorite things here. To quote Jim Valvano from his famous SB speech, 3 things matter: your family, your religion, and Rutgers basketball. So let's talk about it. They're 17-12 on the year. They started the season with 3 quad 3 and 4 losses, but they've won 4 straight against top 15 teams, 7 quad 1 wins. You know they don't lose at the rack, guys. They win games at home, but they're not that great on the road. That's the one thing that stands out for me with this team. And when you get into March, when they're playing games on neutral courts, I don't think that home court advantage at the Jersey Mike's Arena is going to be there helping them out, and I think that could be an issue for them.
Yeah, they're not going to be at home. That's
going to be an issue for them. They win all their
It
big
could
games
be an
at home.
issue, but I mean, right now this team is in March. I know they haven't.
Right?
They have. The thing with them is they've kind of struggled with some teams that have had some weaker opponents, but now you're in the Big Ten tournament. They could be a 4 seed in this tournament, and you're going to play the teams that they have done very well against. They beat Ohio State recently, put up a very good fight against Wisconsin, beat Indiana on Wednesday. They beat Purdue earlier, gave them their first loss of the year. I think you can be celebrating a little bit. You have a ton of stuff to do going forward.
You can't celebrate right now.
I think it's a successful season.
You can't celebrate right now, and this team actually had some sort of expectations. They were in the tournament last year.
It's a successful season if they get themselves in the tournament, and I think they will.
So let's plan the party, right? Let's plan it, but let's not, book it yet officially. Let's plan the venue out. Where are we going to have this party? Let's get all the food. Let's start planning it out. But this is
just know it's not a guarantee.
Just know it's not guaranteed to happen because this team right now they're really sitting on the bubble. I mean, they're right now in the last 4 in.
Yeah,
That's right now where they're at.
Second to last team.
The one thing I'll add with Rutgers before we move on here, not only do they have a great defense that never rests, but senior leadership, Ron Harper, Gio Baker, they will be able to get them over the hump and into the tournament. And if they do, I think they'll be able to win a game. That team has some heart, and I think they'll be able to get it done. Anyway, moving on here, we're going to talk about one more team here, and that is Iowa State. They had just 2 wins last year, fired their head coach, end up with TJ Otzelberger. He's been great for them. Started 12-0. They've cooled down a little bit, but guys, this is a successful season for Iowa State.
That's your opinion?
They're going to be in the tournament.
All right. Mardi Gras. We're in agreement. Let's book that party. It's time to book the party for Iowa State. What about you?
I definitely think they can party, but I think they need to prove a little bit more to me in March. And if you want to throw a big party, only 7-10 in conference.
I'm throwing a big party for them. Let's do it.
They're 7-10 in conference. Yes, there are 5 teams in that conference who I think are significantly better than them. But if you want to go far in March, you need to show me a bit more. And right now, I'm not buying that. So I'm personally not really partying right now. I think they got to prove a bit more to me.
How?
They're making the tournament, but they're not going to go that far.
Are you kidding me?
I agree with that,
Are
but
you
they
kidding me?
didn't have expectations to go far, and they know how to hang with these big-time teams. And we talk about senior leadership. I want to bring up one big-time senior leader on this team who does not get the national love he deserves. Isaiah Brockington is a stud. He deserves some NBA recognition. I know he's a little bit older, so he's probably not going to get it, but this guy can score from everywhere on the court.
Okay, well,
that is true.
I'll just say this. TJ Otzelberger, he's the coach of the year because this team was...
No, he's not.
They won 2 games last year.
Mark Adams is the coach.
No, they won 2 games last year.
Adams
No, they won 2
is
games
the
last year.
coach of the
How many
year,
games did they win
Jackson.
last year? I'm going to count for you. 1, 2. They won 2 games, and now they're going to be a tournament team.
We're talking just Big 12, not national, I hope, correct? Because nationals had Cooley.
Well, we could talk about national.
Nationals at
Why
cool.
not?
You're not giving TK Otzelberger Coach of the
This
Year.
team won
nationally.
2
He's not
games
even a
last
Big
year.
12 Coach of the Year. You
Bro,
have to give it to Mark Adams.
How?
They're an 8
What
seed.
are people watching here? This team won 2 games.
This team's got to be better if they're going to do that. Right now, they're.
This team
Mark
would be
Adams
better.
number one as Texas
They
Tech
won
is the
2
top 10 team in the
games.
country.
They won 2 games.
I will say right
And they're a
now.
projected 8 seed.
I will say right now.
They won 2 games.
I will say right now, their 8-9 matchup against Creighton is a pretty good matchup for them.
I'm taking Iowa State, no question.
Yeah, I definitely think they can do that. But then you got Gonzaga next.
Oh my God!
So-
Boo-hoo! You're gonna lose to Gonzaga in the round of 32 after you won 2 games the year before.
That defense could slow them down a little bit. Probably not enough, but a little bit.
I'm so disappointed in their season. Oh my goodness.
Anyway, we got to wrap up here. We are towards the end of our No Pulp podcast. Guys, I'm really glad I was able to get on this with you. It was a great time.
Yeah, for
guys,
sure.
A lot of fun.
Couple weeks until we get into the NCAA tournament. It's finally time. March is here. We are looking forward to some great college basketball games, and I hope you will all be enjoying them from home. Thank you for tuning into the No Pulp podcast, and we'll see you next week.